You're listening to the Downshift podcast, taking you trackside for all things motorsport. We're four mates from Melbourne breaking down the races, the drama, and everything in between, all with a little banter and a lot of passion. If you love motorsport and cars as much as we do, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you're always on the grid with us. And if you really want to join the team, leave us a 5-star review and support the show through Patreon for exclusive content and bonus perks. So it's lights out, drop the clutch, and let's get racing. Welcome to the Downshift, and it's lights out and almost away we go as we welcome the first round of the Formula One 2025 Grand Prix to Melbourne, Australia, and the iconic Albert Park racetrack. Since 1996, we've seen drivers duke it out over 58 laps on a 5.278 kilometre street circuit for a total of 306.124 kilometres, with average speeds clocking in at over 250 kilometres per hour. And the lap record that was achieved by Charles Leclerc last year with a 1 minute 19.813. For those of you familiar with Melbourne, if nothing, things can be unpredictable. For those who are not familiar with Melbourne, if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes. Team, we're fresh off testing with 8 new driver lineups and 3 or 6 rookies making their debut, depending on how you count it. What does this mean for this weekend's race?
I think it could mean that we're in for a very different mix-up from that. So I think you'll find that with a couple of rookies in there as well, whether there'll be early mistakes to be made from them as well, or how quickly they'll actually settle into it. But I think we could see a little bit of a shake-up here, and it might not quite go the way it was supposed to go, because I don't personally see Red Bull being anywhere near as quick and dominant as what they were last time they were down here.
That's true. And it's also, you mentioned the rookies, KT, that it's a circuit that bites you if you come off, because there's lots of high-speed corners and there is a bit of runoff, but it's effectively a street circuit. So there are walls, barriers around the place. It's not like some of the Barcelona and places they tested at where there is bitumen runoff areas. They're going to hit gravel. We've seen some pretty big prangs over the years if you do make a mistake. So rookie drivers will have to be a little bit careful and not push the limit too much, hopefully. But I'm looking forward to seeing everyone get out there and see what the real pecking order's going to be.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how Jack Doohan goes, because he might have a incredibly short career based on a couple of articles that have come out recently saying that he's literally got 4 drives and I reckon he'll be out. So hopefully he can prove himself.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But we know, I think, Flavio Briatore's in that team now as an advisor. But for all intents and purposes, it looks like he's calling the shots. He's acting more like a team principal than a advisor.
I would suggest that's the way I see it too.
Yeah, and Flavio's a no BS sort of guy. So if you're not pulling your weight and you're not delivering, then it'll be a pretty short discussion, and they'll be looking for someone else, which would probably be good for a team like that, because the only other team that's been like that, willing to kick a driver out mid-season, has been Red Bull. So it could be that their drivers really need to have that threat of you could be out of a drive if you don't perform, hanging over their heads.
Well, he did say, he goes, you either perform or you're out. That's it.
Yep.
He was pretty much down the line. He wasn't pulling punches, so we'll see.
Yep. He's an interesting bloke, and so I don't know if our viewers have seen Drive to Survive yet on Netflix. I binge watched the whole series earlier today, but there's a good bit of Flavio on there. So if you want a taste of Flavio Briatore and what he's like, then watch Drive to Survive. You'll get a good idea.
I watched the first 6 episodes today, and he does feature very predominantly in one of those episodes. So yes.
Yeah, look, I hope Jack lasts a bit longer than 4 or 5 races. But the rumor was, I think I'd seen mentioned in the press before, that in his testing with their team, his times didn't really set the monitors alight. He may not have been super quick, as opposed to someone like Liam Lawson, who got very close to Max's times in testing and does look fast. So yeah, look, I'd love to see another Aussie do well. I'd love to see Jack do well, but only time will tell.
I find it interesting, like a lot of Drive to Survive, the drivers go, if you're not performing, you get kicked out. But there's still a lot of drivers that probably aren't doing a lot, down low.
They can also only drive to their car's capacity and limits as well. Like some of those teams are never going to hit podiums because they just don't have the speed.
Well, that's
Yeah,
the
you
old
see
debate,
that with
isn't it? The driver or the car.
and you see that with Carlos Sainz, who's now come across to Williams, and so for him, he's there going, my goal is to get back to podiums. I realise that I'm probably not going to realise that for a while now. So because the team is developing, it is evolving, but he's on that journey to bring that back to dominance.
He'll see the podium. He just won't be standing on it.
You never know. You never know. If it rains, that'll throw some randomness in there. So you never know.
I'm a bit concerned my hair might go frizzy if it does rain in Melbourne, though.
Considering he did so well in testing, he's really playing everything down. But it'd be interesting to see once they get out on track and once the rubber hits the road, what's going on.
Yeah, I think with Carlos, we'll see some good driving. I mean, he's a great driver, and so he'll be able to get the most out of that car. And again, to your point, Lockie, is these comments about out driving the car. It's impossible. You can only drive within the limits of the car. You can take it to the edge, but if you push beyond the limits of the car, you're going to bin it. So, but if anyone's going to take the Williams car to the limit, and as they're going through and developing and making changes and upgrades, Carlos is going to be able to do that. And you'll see Alex lift as well, because he'll be learning from Carlos, but also have to lift his performance to Carlos's standard at the same time.
I think it would be wrong to think that Carlos would come in there and be the faster driver early on. Like Albon is a really quick driver. I know his experience in that Red Bull team, it didn't work for him. It was probably too early for him to move to that team at the time. But, don't forget, in all of the junior karting that he did and everything else, he was extremely competitive. Like, he's a fast guy. So I think between the two of them, I'd expect them to be fairly even once Carlos gets used to that car. And if they can both push each other and Williams can keep developing, then, yeah, I'd love to see one of them get a podium, sometime this year. That'd be awesome.
Absolutely. What was interesting for me, though, as well, was that as I looked at it, is looking at the grid, there is actually 5 drivers who were there at Melbourne last year who aren't there. I mean, you've got Joe, Ricciardo, Hulkenberg, Bottas, and Perez, who are all gone now. So you've now got those rookies coming in. So you're going to see a change in the team dynamic. You're going to see a change in the pecking order. It's going to add some real dynamism to the event.
It's going to be the first time we all see him get out on the track, and who settles in, who doesn't. Is it going to work for Ferrari? Have they made the right decision going down that path? Can Lewis settle in and hit the ground running? All these are great unknowns at this point in time.
Yeah, I think I'm particularly keen myself to see how the McLarens roll out. Are they as quick as they looked with their long run pace in pre-season testing? And how close is Liam Lawson going to be to Max? Can he help them deliver a constructors championship like they really should have got last year by the looks of it? So that'll be fascinating.
Well, if you read the scuttlebutt that's going around at the minute, Red Bull don't think they're going to win in Melbourne.
No, they're not making very positive noises, are they?
And don't forget, because this is the first race of the season, yes, we've seen the cars in testing. We've seen some really good reliability through that. But this is the first real test under race conditions. And we saw this last year with Max with his right rear brake fire. We saw this with Lewis with his engine failure. So you're going to see some of these gremlins or issues that they haven't really been able to put through the pace come up. And so that's where we might see some of these top drivers dropping off. We may also see some really good performance from some of the other drivers. And with the other part that I'm excited to see is Ferrari, to see how strong Ferrari is going to be coming off last year's season as runner-up in the Constructors' Championship with Charles and Lewis behind the wheel.
Should be good.
Yeah, no, Ferrari finished the season strongly. It was sad to see Sainz have to make way for Hamilton. He had some good results, and they seem quietly confident for this year, Ferrari. I think they've got a couple little issues to sort out after pre-season testing from what I've read, but I think overall they seem generally happy with the car. So, yeah, I'm hanging out to see qualifying. I really want to see what happens, and love to see Piastri do well as well this year too. So that'd be cool.
Yeah, look, I honestly think Piastri is going to be more dominant than Norris. So if he can continue his trajectory and they gain that calm confidence, I think he's got a bit more of a killer instinct than Lando. Lando errs.
Yes and no. Yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see be interesting to see with the team dynamics as to will they allow them both to race properly, or will there be no, you follow him, you sit there, or will team orders come into play?
Yeah, it was a little while into the season before Zach had to have a chat with them about don't get in each other's way, particularly when Oscar overtook Lando in Monza, which was a surprise to Lando. It hampered the team. It cost them a good result. But I think for Oscar to do well this year, he has to be leading from points basically versus Lando after the first sort of 5 or 6 rounds. Like, he has to be looking like the better driver. And I think that'll still be a huge ask after Lando, did so well last year, and he's obviously pumped up. He's in form. He drove well. He really looks like he's driving his best at the moment. So big task for Oscar. But yeah, you never know. He might get off to a good start. He might find the car a bit more to his liking this year. I don't know how much the balance of that thing has changed, but Lando was just a jet in that car last year. He was really fast.
And Oscar was great in the mid part of the season. So top and tail, that's I think where he lost a lot of it. If he can show that consistency throughout the season, then he's definitely he's going to be taking the fight not only to Lando but to the rest of the field as well.
Yeah.
Good watching.
All right, so an exciting weekend of racing is ahead of us. We're going to take a short break, and when we return, we're going to share our predictions for the outcome of the Melbourne Grand Prix. Back with you in just a few moments. Time for the rubber to hit the road, boys, as we put our knowledge and interpretation of the performance of the teams so far to share our predictions for first, second, third and pole. We're going to put points on the table to make things a little bit more interesting. So 3 points for first place, 2 points for second place, 1 point for third, and a bonus point for picking pole. With 2 Aussies on the grid this year, does anyone think that the Melbourne GP curse can be lifted? Nathan, we'll throw it over to you.
Yeah. No such thing as curses, so I'm not worrying about that. First, second, third, and pole. Look, it's always going to be tough to guess. I think for pole, I'm going to go Lando. In first place, I'll go Lando. Second place, I am inclined to go for Max. So I think he'll still get the most out of that car. We'll see what happens.
Wow.
That's a bit of a punt, but we'll see.
He's
you just can't write him off
at all, Nate, for this one. So there we
go. You just cannot write that guy off. So we'll see. We'll see how they get off to a start this year. But so yeah, I go Lando first. We'll go Max second, and Oscar third. Oh, did I say pole position? Lando and pole. Yeah,
Lando for pole as well. Yep. Okay. Well, I'm going to be a little bit more. Sorry, no, Dan, it's over to you first. Sorry.
Yeah, you're screwing up the order. We've got a run sheet.
Look,
we've got a run sheet for a reason. All right.
If you don't want the actual results, then just let me know and we can skip over me. That's okay.
Are you saying Cam Waters is going to win the F1 GP as well? Is that what we're saying?
He's a man of many talents.
Is that not?
It's even highlighted in yellow. It says Nathan, Daniel, Christian, Lachlan. You wrote this, Christian.
I know.
I just need to change my number 1 person. No, Cam.
So it's all gone. That's it. We're all done.
All right, let's get back on track.
back on track. Leclerc's going to win. Piastri's going to come second. Russell's going to come in third. An honourable mention to Hamilton, who'll come fourth. And pole position will probably be Norris, but he won't win it. I don't know why.
Right.
Why not?
George and Russell to come third.
Why not? George,
I like your predictions.
I have watched a bit of, the next Drive to Survive, and I'm up to the George Russell episode, so I've got a soft spot for him at the moment. So he'll do well. Toto gave him a big encouraging hug, so George is going to take that, and he's going to do something with it.
That reminds me, that's a note for our next chat. All right. It's my turn now.
Yes, Christian, your turn now.
You're number 3.
You're the K in the K list, I think, yeah.
Oh, thank goodness. Yeah, okay. Now that I know the notes that I've written. All right, so for me, I'm actually going to have Charles taking out pole for this year. And look, it's a little bit of a clean sweep for me. I am actually going to put my money behind Oscar Piastri for first. I'd love to see him do it.
You're a big Oscar fan, are you?
I am a big Oscar fan. Yeah. Oh,
okay.
Look, I'm right behind him. So, but no, Oscar for first, followed by Charles in second. And Dan, I'm going to see yours. I'm going to raise you one. I'm going to put Lewis in third. So it's going to be a Ferrari 2-3 for Melbourne.
Could be. You never know. Oscar's mum would be happy. She would be very happy.
And she'll let everyone know about it.
Yeah, Nicole Piastri. You should follow her on X.com or Twitter as it used to be. She's funny. She's worth.
She's good value. Definitely good value.
Take your word for it.
So who's next?
I suppose it'll be me next then. Okay, here we go.
Yeah, you can round it out.
L. Right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be L today. That'll work out well. So, look, I think first place I am going to go Norris first. I think Leclerc will be in second, and I'm going to have Piastri in third. I am going to go also Norris to crack pole position for this one as well. I think his performance back end of last year should see him come through with a good solid win to start with. And I just don't think Verstappen is going to get...
Yeah, I think I need to change my guess.
No,
it's locked in.
Because you've heard
leave
some
it
of the
there.
comments
Leave it
from
there.
them. I just don't think that Red Bull is going to be tweaked and ready to go for Melbourne. It might take them a race or two to get it in there, but I just don't think for the first race of the season they're quite ready for it.
Yep.
Do you reckon Red Bull's going to complain about the McLaren wing?
For sure.
Red Bull will complain about anything they can.
Everything.
Okay, so that's just a given. That's not a
Oh, I think
put the house
Formula One's worse than the Sydney to Hobart yacht race. The number of protests after that race is ridiculous, and I think Formula One's probably the same.
Yep. No, look, I still stand behind. I reckon that Max is going to throw his toys out at the cot quite a lot at the start of this year. So he's not going to be happy with the car, and we're going to see some frustration on the track.
Well, look, when we come back here on Monday, we can all sit down, dissect, and find out just how right I was. So this will be good.
If Red Bull gets off to a tough start, just seeing some of Max's drives over the past 3 or 4 years, he just gets the absolute maximum out of whatever he has. So it wouldn't surprise me if he drags that car up the points. And Red Bull's strategy calls were usually pretty good, last year. So that's why I thought, there's a chance he could get up to a second. If they roll that thing out with a decent enough setup, Max could make it happen, but only Max. So yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, look, I get that, but I just don't like him.
Yeah. So it's personal.
I'm not sure what he thinks of you, though, Lockie.
Yeah. It could be mutual.
I'm sure he's a big follower of mine, and you'll find it's all good.
It could be mutual.
Well, Max, if you are listening, please pass on your comments and what your thoughts are of Lockie, and we'll be sure to share them in the podcast. So, with those predictions, as Lockie said, we'll come back and review those at the start of next week to see how well we've done or how terribly poorly we've done. Again, it's the start of the season, so it's anyone's guess at this stage. But we did see Drives to Survive return to our screens last week as the next Netflix team drew their attention to the 2024 World Championship. We discussed our thoughts last week. So, gentlemen, who's had a chance to have a look? How far in are we, and what are your thoughts so far?
Well, I got through 3 episodes, I think, so far.
Yeah.
It wasn't too bad. I wasn't planning on it, but I thought, 3. But I thought, I'll have a crack. And I was actually quite pleased that I was pleased that they're all there, but then I'm like, now I kind of want to pace it a little bit, because then once you watch it all, then what?
Seen the first 6 series, or is this the first time you've watched it?
No, I watched them all before we went
Yeah,
to Singapore last year. So I that was my homework for myself to figure out. And I think having seen it again now on Saturday or whatever, I think I missed it. Actually, it was always good. It was entertaining. It was good summary of, a little bit of made up story stuff. But who cares? It's what sort of semi-reality TV isn't sort of got some manufactured drama in it anyway. So, but that was good. Good to and I was really impressed. I didn't realize that. Found out that Lewis Hamilton's driving for Ferrari this year. That was good to hear. Good on him.
Yeah, big news, Dan. We should have told you.
Yeah. I know.
We didn't want to spoil it for you, mate.
That was,
just thought,
well, that's good. No, look, it'd be good to see him in red next on the weekend. So, no, it's been good.
At least you won't confuse him.
No. Well, I saw where they were showing the Mercedes, and the Mercedes had a bit of red on the top of the. Was it air intake at the top there?
Yeah.
They go, I don't know about the red on the car. And then, a week later, sorry, I'm going.
And it was funny to see as they were doing the launch of the livery with the car, Toto's come in and Lewis has gone just to give him the handshake, and Toto's done the uncomfortable, awkward hug. I'm going to show that I still love you, even though you've just abandoned all of us.
I will give you a big hug.
Well, unlike the rest of you, I thought I would, start my Drive to Survive by jumping in at season 7. So I did that today, and I watched 6 episodes of that today. Quite enjoyable. I could see why I can see why they keep making it. Obviously, it's doing quite well. But I think I'll actually go back and watch it from the start now as well. But it was interesting to see how they've sort of dissected it and broken up into each episode. Nice that they covered off Christian Horner in the first episode and got that little texting scandal out of the way nice and early on in the season there. But it was it's quite well put together, and it's well spliced in. Everything seems to actually focus on one thing for an episode as opposed to trying to follow 6, 8, 10 storylines at the same time. So you sort of get a good across one particular issue in that thing. It was enjoyable watch. I thought it was good.
Yeah, I think they've found a formula or format that quite works. But we're now, for those who have watched now 7 seasons of this, I'm sort of going, how are they going to change this up a little bit? Because it is the same every single time. And to your point, it's great because you follow one story and get all that. But it is pretty much a carbon copy. It was nice to see for the Singapore GP. And for those who, when you get to that episode, they actually have given iPhones to the drivers and said, right, we want you to record. So they're getting the driver's view of it. So you're getting a little bit more of the personal approach to it, because they are all mates. So you can see them interacting with each other, taking the mickey out of each other a little bit. And what I thought was some clever editing was you saw Lando sticking his finger up almost in an aggressive way for the trailer, but it's actually him doing it. I think it was to Alex or to Pierre, just as and then there was a chuckle after it. So it was smart editing.
I'd just like to say too, there was the team shot, or the entire shot that I'd taken for the 2024. That looked much better than the one they took this year that we took the mickey out of last week. So, and I was saying to my wife, we were watching it, and I said, "Oh, this shot's much better." She goes, "I don't understand." So I brought the other shot up, and her immediate thought was, "Why is that guy like a 70s porn star in the corner there with his legs up?" So, 2024 much better than 2025 photo.
Yeah, I found it enjoyable. I watched on the plane on the way back. I got a few episodes in, got home, got up this morning, and finished the rest of it off. And it was a pretty good season. It was good to see. It's always good to see the behind the scenes stuff. Like, you get to see how the drivers, get to and from Grand Prix. Do they get along? Like, you've got that group. There was that episode where you saw Alex and Pierre and George and those guys. They tend to travel together. They get on well together. They came up karting together. So it's really good for that sort of behind the scenes stuff.
The human element.
The human element. And the other thing I liked was we mentioned last week, I think it was a couple episodes ago, that they were introducing cool suits for drivers when a temperature was going to be over 30 degrees or 30.5 or something. And they showed the Singapore Grand Prix in some detail. That episode was pretty much focused on Singapore GP, and they showed footage of George Russell getting out of the car, sweat pouring off him. He looked like a ghost. He looked horrible. He'd lost 4 kilos of weight during the race. Obviously, heat stroke affected, had to cool down, felt sick. It was good to see that, to see how physical and demanding driving a Formula One car is, because you watch it on telly as like your general punter. It's very hard to understand what 5 Gs or 4 Gs of force feels like in a corner or anywhere, because people just don't experience that sort of thing. And then, 60 degrees of heat, humidity, lap after lap, where a track like Singapore, where you really don't get much of a break. The straight's not that long. It's like 2 or 3 seconds of full throttle, and then you're into corners and braking again, and 4G, 5G, 3G corners. So that was good, because it gives you a much better understanding of the athletes that these guys have to be. So that's one of the things that I took away from this season anyway.
Yeah, I agree. I was exactly the same. My thoughts were around that when you talk about, the 60 degrees in the car. As George was saying, his body temperature started at 37 degrees and was at 40 degrees when he finished racing. So,
no, that was just in one of the practice sessions.
Oh,
that
was
wasn't
practice.
Even the race.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So it's the physicality and just the impact on their bodies is, and he was hyperventilating in the end. So people were saying, oh, I don't know. There's some talk on social media around, oh, you shouldn't have shown that stuff. But I think it's actually really important to show that stuff, because it shows really what these guys go through, what the physicality of it is, and to your point, what athletes they are.
Yeah. So
in previous seasons where they've showed them doing those neck exercises.
Yeah.
And that just, they're like, and that probably doesn't even get even close to what they're doing in the car. And I know when we were in Singapore last year, I was at the stage and they were showing like a pre video, which was just they talked about the drivers and what they go through and the athleticism of it. And it's like, I hadn't seen that before. I'm like, oh, that's really a lot more than I kind of knew. It's tough, but you don't kind of quite realize. You kind of think, oh, it's an open car. They're going to get a bit of wind through their hair. It'll be fine. They'll cool down that way. But obviously it's a bit more than that. But yeah.
Yeah. I think I heard someone describe driving like a Formula car. They were trying to sum it up in one word, and doing a bit of go-karting and so on, you could probably understand why they would choose a word like this to describe what it's like to race these cars. But the word was violent. Like it's an assault on the senses, like the physical aspect, the strength required, the heat, the G-forces, the vibrations. It's like, it's violent. It's not just a smooth ride in a fast car. There's something that it would be very hard to understand unless you've actually done it, I think. So, and none of us will ever get to do it, unfortunately. But yeah.
I think last season 6 or 5, there was one race where Lewis Hamilton was just having major back issues.
Yeah.
Because the ride was so rough, and it's like, that's.
Yeah, I did a training flight once with an ex Air Force pilot at an Air Force base. We went up in a 2-seater side by side trainer, and we ended up doing loops and barrel rolls and all this sort of stuff. It was really cool. One of the best things I've ever done. And the maximum number of Gs we pulled was about 4.5 to 5 Gs, and I thought I was going to pass out. It was an incredible feeling. It was just unbelievable. And later on, I found out that as a fighter pilot for the Australian Air Force, he'd pulled up to 10 Gs in a couple of escape scenarios overseas, and wouldn't tell me where, but he said 10 Gs was the most he'd pulled, and I just could not fathom it. But even that 5G experience, but that was slow and sort of consistent, and he could prepare for it. Whereas in Formula One cars, when they're braking at 4 Gs and cornering at 5 Gs, it's just one after the other. It's forwards, it's side to side. It's just unrelenting. Like, I just can't imagine what that would be like. Like, they're absolute athletes.
And we saw, as you'd mentioned a little bit earlier, Flavio Briatore, who is coming in as a advisor to Alpine, but to your point, Happy, is more like a team principle. Anyone who's endorsed by Christian Horner, who jokingly said, "Oh, so you're going to paint me as a villain this year?" And they said, "Oh, when have we painted you as a villain before?" Well, season 1 through 6. It goes to show sort of where some of the team principles are going.
Yeah, I think you've got to have a bit of that ruthlessness about you to get to the top and stay there. And like Christian said, the higher you get, the sharper the knives get to cut you back down. So, interesting. It was interesting. They did cover off in a little bit of detail that drama that he went through with the whole texting sort of thing, but they didn't dwell on it too much. As they mentioned, he sort of came out reasonably unscathed. But you got to be tough to run a team like that, and you've got to be ruthless. And it was interesting footage to see Jerry Halliwell, his wife, holding his hand, walking back into the paddock in one episode. She didn't look particularly like she was happy and wanted to be there, but she
was smiling a lot, and every shot they got of her, she was smiling.
Strength.
But it did
later on, she was not in that particular shot when she walked in. I reckon.
I'm here in support.
Having said that episode where they were covering Christian Horner's incident, like then you kind of go when you saw the season opener at the O2, and when he was booed there, you kind of go, yeah, I kind of understand now a bit more about why he kind of maybe isn't so popular.
Yeah, exactly. Now look, you can see why. Like he's leading the team that's won that many world championship driver. Like he's obviously doing a very good job. So some of these other fans would like to see him go on. They think they might their team might have more success if he wasn't around.
But it's a bit like Max. Max isn't necessarily overly popular, but he's just that focused and hungry.
Yeah, very good at what he does.
Yeah, and if I was to think of one word which summed up Red Bull, it would be just ruthless. And really, you see that as a core philosophy within that team.
And that's Formula One in general as well, and there were a number of drivers during this series and previous series. They say, I'm not here to make friends. When I'm on the racetrack, I'm here to win. Like, friendship goes out the window. So that's it. It's cutthroat. There's only 20 seats available, and it's the pinnacle of world motorsport. So you have to be ruthless. If you're not ruthless, then you might as well not be there.
And Liam Lawson has embodied that in coming into Red Bull and said exactly that point. I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to get a seat. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes for this year.
Yep, 100%.
Yep. So we're certain to see plenty more drama for 2025. The racing program starts on Friday the 14th of March with P1 and P2, followed by P3 and qualifying on Saturday. The racing kicks off at 3 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time on Sunday the 16th of March. For those of you who are heading to the track, outside of the seating in the stands and the hospitality, the best viewing positions are through the second DRS zone between turns 8 and 9, and then the braking zone through turns 9 and 10 out of that. Dan, Lockie and I will be at the track on Sunday, so if you see us there in our Downshift polos, come up and say hello. We'd love to share with you your passion for the sport, hear what you think of the pod so far and what you'd like to hear from us in the future. So we look forward to seeing you there. But for now, thank you for joining us. This has been the Downshift, and we'll see you on the next episode. That's the checkered flag for this episode of the Downshift. Thanks for tuning in and hanging out with us in the paddock. If you enjoyed the ride, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe so you never miss a lap. And hey, if we've earned it, drop us a 5-star review. It really helps us climb the grid and reach more motorsport fans. Want to take it to the next level? Join the Downshift pit crew by supporting us through Patreon. You'll get exclusive content and help fuel the show to keep us pushing flat out every week. Until next time, keep it fast, keep it fun, and we'll catch you on the next lap.